Eat it. I had breakfast, I'm sorry. I've lived in this area. I was born and raised here. I'm 65 years old. It just blows my mind how fast time goes by, but I guess that's living in such a great place and being able to do so much. I've always enjoyed fishing. Far back as I can remember, either my dad or my uncle would take me fishing. Just got some great memories of that. I remember thinking when we'd see the fish jump, it's like, I wished I knew how to fly fish, but if I knew how to fly fish, I could catch all kinds of fish. So when I finally got old enough to where I could save up a little bit of money, I went and bought me a fly rod, and I still have the original reel I bought with it. That was a long time ago. I think I was 14 years old. But the flies were kind of expensive, so I thought, well, you know, I can save money if I tie my own flies. So I got started doing that. There was no guy in our community that was known for his flies, and I went to him one day and asked him if he'd teach me how to tie flies. And he says, normally I don't do it. He says, but I'll do it with you. And so that was where I got my start tying flies. And I remember fishing the South Fork, and there's a golden that hatches on that river. It'll start usually in July, and it drags out. There's a good hatch to begin with, and then it kind of slows up some, and then usually in August, late August, first part of September, there's another one that hatches, and it's a prolific hatch. I can remember seeing all these empty shucks on the rocks and looking for them in the air like I did the Teton. Very seldom would I ever see them, and it's like, there's got to be more of them here than that, with all them empty shucks on the bank. One day I was stopped out on a gravel bar and had to take a leak. So anyway, I looked down, and all at once here's all these little bugs crawling around running, and so I caught one and looked at it, and it's those golden stoneflies. Well, that's how I discovered that once they hatch, it's a nocturnal hatch, that they hide under those rocks during the day, and it's a prolific hatch. But I caught a couple of them, threw them on the water, and they're very agile. They almost run across the water, and it didn't go very far, and a fish ate it. And I sit there and did that for a while, and thinking, man, I got to tie something that looks like that. So I sit down and tried several different things. I could come up with a pattern that looked like them, but I couldn't get it to float very long. Well, then the Chernobyl ant came out, the foam, and one day I sat down to tie some flies, and I noticed I had some dubbing that was the same color as those goldens. So I made a big fat body, put that foam on it, took it to the river. I was amazed at how well not only that it floated, but the fish ate it. I kept it to myself for a couple of months, and then everybody's coming to me saying, what flies are you using? So I finally let the secret out. And anyway, this is the copy of the old original golden. And I think one of the reasons why this fly works so well is when the Teton lays its eggs on the water, they continually try to get airborne, so they have that wing is fluttering, so the fish sees that silhouette of that flared wing. I've watched the female goldens, when they fly back to the water, they'll land on the water, most of the time they'll bounce a couple of times, knock the eggs off, then they take off. After they do that a few times, they get depleted, energy to where they can't get off the water. They maybe will lay there and flutter for 2-3 feet, drift in the water, and then they lay their wings down along their body, and they will swim back towards shore. So I believe that's why that skinny profile that works so well, is because that imitates the natural. started getting requests for a red-bodied one, and so I sat down one day and tied basically the same fat pattern, just tied with a good bright red dubbing, and it's surprising how well this works. This is a great fish fly on the Henry's Fork and the South Fork for browns. The browns seem to key on that red color a little bit better than they do the golden. But this fly one year was the top fly in the Jackson Hole 1 fly, and it's also, I believe, holds the record for the largest fish ever caught in the 1 fly. You know, I believe the 1 fly has been going for 28 years. I'm sure you noticed that it's got 2 different color indicators on that. When I first started tying it, I was using the yellow. Well, I'd get into some light conditions to where they were hard to see, and so I'd tie some with the orange. Well, one day I thought, why am I wasting my time tying one with yellow and one with orange? So I put the orange on the back one. And what's funny about that is I had a guy fishing with me one day, and I pulled one of these out to tie on. He goes, "Oh, you've got the city worker fly." And I said, "The city worker fly?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "All the guides up on the Bow River in Canada use this." He says, "The city workers wear the orange and yellow vests." And he said, and quite often when you cast this fly out, it'll land upside down. All you got to do is just give it a little pop 2-3 inches in the water, and it'll right itself. Well, they were laughing because they'd say, "Oh, if it landed upside down," he says, "he's sleeping, wake him up." So partway through the day, I said, "Well, just so you know," I says, "I'm the one that came up with that pattern," and the guy's fished with me for 15 years. So I thought that was kind of a funny story.